Georgia fans expect the best. We'll see if the Dogs can deliver here in 2024. We got Clint on the line from Dogs Podcast. Is on the Lockdown Network there. Lockdown Bulldogs. Let's talk some Georgia football. Clint, how you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. It's always a good night when you get to talk about Georgia football.
Absolutely. It has been a lot of good nights and a lot of good days for Georgia football for the last 7 or 8 years.
That's right.
No question about that. And they have kind of unofficially taken over as the gold standard of college football. So why don't we go big picture before we grind down to position battles and recruiting and so forth? Because, of course, Nick Saban in Alabama, a thorn in the side, and they have been the standard and the thorn in everyone's side that have aspired to a championship. But now it's Georgia. And they are the consensus number one team. If you look at program rankings, I'm going to deliver mine pretty soon. And spoiler alert, Georgia's going to be number one as a program. However, I got to say that SEC championship game, while most people thought that this was the best football team in America going into the game, and a lot of people, even after Michigan won the national championship, thought, that Georgia team, man, we would have loved to have seen them on the field as well. They only lost by one score in Atlanta, Clint, but at the same time, it was like Alabama kind of controlled that game. They were up by a score, then they took it to 2, and then it was back to 1. And it wasn't a situation that they had to hold Georgia out of the end zone in the final minutes. They pretty much took it down to a 1-score lead and just ran out the clock and took control of that final half of the fourth quarter. So that had to be a slightly alarming to Georgia in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. That SEC game really showed one thing. And I don't know, Daniel and I still talk about, my co-host and I over on Locked On Bulldogs, we still talk about to this day what happened, but Alabama absolutely punched us in the mouth and kept doing so over and over and over and controlled the line of scrimmage and the trenches. The offense showed up admirably in that game. Carson Beck, his efficiency rating in that game was just fine. Surprisingly, the defense just let us down, and it had been kind of a culmination. All year, the defense was just a tick below what we were expected. And you're talking about program rankings, number one. We expect to be the best defense year in, year out at Georgia. And, previous seasons, that was the case. All of a sudden, last year comes around, and the defense was suspect in a couple of tight situations, and no more suspect in that SEC championship game where, Alabama just mauled and ran the ball and didn't have incredible running backs. And Milroe did not, he hit a couple of passes that were on time, but they just controlled and Anaconda suffocated. They did to Georgia what Georgia had been doing for years. We call it the Kirby Death March, where he gets a lead. He doesn't care about score. Kirby just does not care about beauty pageant points. And he'll just say, all right, Tennessee, I'm up a couple touchdowns. Guess what? I'm just going to choke the life out of you. And we're going to end this game right now in the beginning of the third quarter. And you're not going to be able to come back on us. Alabama flipped the script, did that. It was alarming. That's why you see things like Dumas Johnson going to Kentucky. Dumas Johnson did not go to Kentucky because he had a better opportunity. He was informed. We have some guys we're going to be playing at linebacker, Pop, and if you want to get playing time, it's going to be elsewhere. Clear as day. And a couple other cats, same exact situation. Kirby cleaned house on the defensive side, brought in some exciting coaches as well. We saw a couple changes in off-field roles as well. And I think there's a revamped effort with Glenn Schumann on the defensive side to really say, no, we know where the pain point was, and we're going to rectify it. Now, the good news is we have a plethora of talent inside linebacker. Huge question mark defensive back. We lost all the production in defensive back room. My goodness. You just look at the snaps and the games played. It's going to be a work in progress, but I think they did enough moves this offseason that really is going to rectify that problem that we saw exposed in that SEC game.
And Clint, you mentioned a name like Jamon Dumas Johnson, and to the person like myself who knows Georgia football pretty well, knows the personnel, watches the games, but I'm not covering it like you are day in, day out. I'm not watching the UAB game. I'm watching the 6, 7, 8 games that matter, something in that range. You get comfortable and used to these names, and you just figure they're doing the job. This is one of the best defenses in the country. So when he transferred and then you learn that he got shoved out the door, you figure, wow, this guy can play. He's a talented player, but not good enough. We can do better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's wild to think about. This is the embarrassment of riches that Georgia has come to expect with Kirby Smart, best recruiter in college football, year in, year out. There's certain players that want to go play for legacy or want to stay close to home, and you got kind of really out of nowhere guys. Mario Cristobal down in Miami can pull players, and I don't know why they don't win. They don't do anything, but he can pull them down there in South Florida. You get Ryan Day able to do the same thing, Lincoln Riley, USC, but Kirby Smart, year in, year out, top 3 is always expected. Top 1 is always in play. And so, yes, when you have a leading tackler one year, and all of a sudden the following year, CJ Allen, Raylan Wilson, a couple of these names move him out because 4 or 5 3 5-stars are in the inside linebacker room right now, not starting. Like they're just stacked, waiting to go. It's because Kirby knows first and foremost it's talent acquisition. In college football, talent acquisition is going to win a lot of games. It's going to cover a multitude of problems. He knows that really well. And so you do get guys who aren't cutting it up to the standard that we are now expecting. Back-to-back national championships is the thought now every single year. You're going to reload. And the freshman or sophomore, CJ Allen last year, freshman, had to play majority of the season. We saw a lot of growing pains from him. But by the end of the year, man, he looks ready and primed to go. Switch his number to number 3, which is Roquan Smith, Chicago, and now Baltimore linebacker. We expect big things out of him this year. And it's just testament of the stacked rooms that we have position by position.
Voice of College Football here. Please like and subscribe. Get on over to Clint's Dogs podcast. It's typically Clint and Daniel getting together. Locked On Bulldogs. Deliver it on Twitter as well. You see the Twitter handle right there.